Raquel Bowman here, and today I'm here sharing a new layout for Pink Paislee with you. The collection I'm using is Wild Child, and I'm going to be choosing more of the masculine pieces from this collection. If you haven't seen it, I've shared an unboxing video on my channel and it is truly an amazing collection, so definitely check that out. The photo that I'm going to be scrapbooking is this one here of my son. He is my wild child, and my thoughts for this layout were that I would sort of either pop in these speech bubbles, which were a silhouette cut file from the Silhouette store. I'll either pop in the speech bubbles, things that he says or things that he does, you know, that are typical of him. So I think with these, my thoughts were to sort of pop this up and then back each of these with a different design, so that that's where I'm bringing in my element of colour. But then I also thought I could fill some of them with the different embellishments that are amongst the collection as well. To be honest, I'm not really sure, but I had the idea to do like a speech bubble style layout, so that's sort of what I created to start with, and then I'll just see where this takes me. I'm also experimenting with different backgrounds on my videos, so any feedback would be great. I feel like my desk is an off-white, so I felt like it made my layouts and my embellishments look a little bit grey from the video, so I'm thinking these pops of colour that I'm putting on my video backdrop, I guess if you call it that, might help to be able to distinguish my white layouts a bit better. So fingers crossed, but let me know feedback below if you like it or don't, or suggestions for something else that you think would be better. And I'm just going to get creating, so I'll take you along with me. So I began by just rifling through the ephemera pack and looking for any bits and pieces that I thought I could embellish the page with. As I mentioned before, I had the idea to back the cut files with the speech bubbles with different pattern papers, but I knew of course as well that I wanted to add some embellishments. So the ephemera pack is perfect for doing that. I've gathered together some of the pop art bubbles. So I think one says wild and free and one says boom or zoom or something along those lines. There's rockets, just really fun childlike icons, which is perfect for this theme, of course, but it's also perfect for documenting layouts of my little man. So I've gathered together a few of those and sort of placed them temporarily where I think that they will be able to go on this layout, keeping in mind that I want to keep this layout, you know, balanced. I don't want to add too many embellishments, but I do want to add those nice little details to the page that make a layout finished and fun. So that little speech bubble that I just took the adhesive off then with my EK Success powder tool applicator said 1 in a million, and for me that title was perfect because this kid, I tell you what, he definitely is 1 in a million. He's a character. He's high energy and full on, but at the same time so loving and so beautiful. High energy as a teacher, we normally say to those kids that just can't sit still, you know, when you write those reports, and which we're doing at the moment, and you need to sometimes think of nice ways to word children who just it's going to be my Jacker boy. I'm going to get those comments in his reports because he is high energy and he does like to keep you challenged, but that's okay. We love him and he'll get there. He'll get there. So I'm back in the cut files now, and when I'm doing that, I'm adding foam. It took me a while because I had to cut the foam, you know, all small and little, but I'm adding foam tape behind them so that they can look like they're popping back from the page. So I wanted to add that shadow and that depth in when I was backing them. So that's what I'm doing, and it means that I'll have to actually put foam all over the back of the layout and adhere it to another piece of paper just to make it sit nicely. And I do that off camera. What I also do is machine stitch around the border of the page, because I didn't frame this layout with a pattern paper because the design was so big. So I machine stitched around the border just to give it that finishing look to the layout. And I also decided to back my photo, which is a black and white photo. I printed it black and white. I just felt like that worked best. And I've backed that with that gorgeous lime green in the collection. I adore that colour and that pattern in this collection. So I back my photo with that because it adds that pop of colour to the bottom of the layout. I add some foam behind that so that I've got a little bit of dimension. And now I'm just working on building some layers behind my photos. So I used that fun tag which was in the ephemera pack, and that little tab that I've got coming off the side, I think said boys only, that also was in the ephemera. That rocket will go at the side as well. I've added some crochet thread to the tag just because I always feel like I need to add something to the tag, whether it's a bow or just a little string hanging off there. And I end up sort of assembling this layout and doing the journaling at the very end, and just working my journaling and trying to make it fit amongst those speech bubbles, because I did know, round about what I wanted to put into my journaling. And I knew that I'd sort of have 5 set topics or themes that I wanted to put, one in each of the bubbles. And I just made that journaling work for the spaces that were there. So I knew I could embellish and go on with pretty much finishing the layout minus the journaling before I add the journaling later. So I'm adding together those ephemera pieces. Some of them I'm putting with foam adhesive so they've got even more dimension, and some of them I'm just adhering flush against the page. The rocket and things like that I'm folding sort of inwards and upwards so that I add a little bit of extra texture and dimension to them. And the photo I'll adhere sort of centered to that bottom area. So this sort of a layout is a really fun way to document, say, where your child is at right now. So you might document the things that they like I have, or some of their characteristics, or you could do one of these style layouts for every birthday, for example. And it's just a really nice overview of your child right now. It could be that you document yourself and do it with the speech bubble type design. So it definitely doesn't have to be limited to children, but being that this week on the Pink Paislee blog is all about children, that's why I'm documenting my little man. So hopefully you've got an idea for a layout design that you might be able to replicate at home. And if you do, please be sure to tag me on social media, because I'd love to see what you come up with. So getting back to the layout, I'm fiddling around now with the string that's coming out of the tag. I knew I wanted to add like a little bit of a loop and staple it on and add some texture with the staples. So I do that, and then I pull out the 6x12 sticker sheet, and I just wanted to add a few little stickers like stars and those smaller embellishing touches. So I've added a lightning bolt and some stars. The stars and things in this collection have a red foil to them, so it's a really nice little pop of colour to the page. I also will work very shortly on using some rub-ons, because the rub-ons in the collection, which I'm opening now, have stars, and I thought that's a really nice small embellishment that I can scatter amongst the page and amongst those speech bubbles. So I cut out a portion of the stars from the pack, And then I just make my way scattering them amongst the page, and I really like that sort of subtle touch that they add to the final design. So I'm just going through now, as you can see, and adding them just around mainly where I've added some of the ephemera pieces, just as those extra details to that cluster of embellishments. And then once I've finished that, I will shortly move on to my journaling, which took me a little while to, certainly didn't take me very long to think of something to write about, because I could write probably a book about this child. But I wanted to get that snapshot of him at the age that he's at. So before I do that, I'm adding some foam. So I'm wanting to even out my layout, because at the moment it's not sitting nicely. It wouldn't sit nicely in an album because I've got the foam behind the speech bubbles and nowhere else. So what I do is I cut my foam sheets to fit any of the gaps, and then I actually just stick the whole layout onto a piece of cardstock, and just to reinforce it a little bit. So I had an offcut of white cardstock to type my journaling on, which is generally, I'll just use my offcuts from my layouts or my cut files for my journaling, and I've got a little stack of those beside my desk. So I start typing my journaling and just fitting and cutting what I want to say to work within those speech bubbles. So all my journaling will be contained in those speech bubbles, and it will document little things about my Jacker boy right now at this age. So although the photo was taken a few months ago now, it's documenting him right now in November of 2017. Can you believe it? So the year has flown. Time is flying. I do sometimes wish it would slow down. Anyway, I'm stamping the date now. I've got a Chamel roller stamp that I use all the time for stamping the date, so I'm stamping that. I'll add that to the page, and then that's pretty much the layout finished. I'm going to go into real time just at the end, just to show you some close-ups of how the layout finished up, and just the dimension that I was able to achieve with the speech bubbles and the embellishing. And then I'll leave you with some close-ups of the page. So thank you so much for watching, and thank you to those that leave me comments and feedback on my layouts. I really, really appreciate it, and I do try and reply to all of them. So yeah, thank you so much for your support, and I will be back soon on my channel. Bye everyone.